Welcome, seekers. Today's story is about a woman refuses to give up her window seat on a flight to an entitled mother and daughter, causing tense confrontation and judgment from others. Enjoy the story. I, female, 22, was recently in a situation that left me questioning whether I made the right call. Let me give you some context. It all started when I was flying home for Christmas. The flight was packed, and I had paid extra for a window seat since I'm one of those people who finds the view during a flight to be incredibly relaxing. It wasn't a cheap ticket either. It was around Christmas, so it was much more expensive than usual. I was looking forward to a quiet, peaceful flight to unwind before the holiday madness began. The day of the flight, the airport was packed with the usual chaos of last-minute travelers. The air felt tense, and I could sense the excitement and stress mingling in the crowd. As I was in line for boarding, I noticed a mother around her mid-30s and her daughter around 5 in front of me. The little girl was giggling and running around, her energy bubbling over. I didn't think much of it at first. That is, until the mom, a bit too loudly, said, "I really hope no one is in the window seat so she can sit by the window for her first flight. I've been telling her about it for weeks." At that moment, I raised an eyebrow. Okay, this is going to be interesting, I thought, but I pushed it aside and tried not to overthink it. Fast forward to boarding, and guess who's seated in my row? Yep, the mother and daughter were assigned the 2 seats next to me, one by the aisle, the other in the middle. The little girl was practically buzzing with excitement, talking nonstop about how she was going to sit by the window. Her mother, with a smile that almost felt rehearsed, kept assuring her, "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll make sure you get that window seat." I could practically feel the air shift, this subtle sense of entitlement hanging in the air. Well, this is going to be awkward, I thought to myself, but I kept quiet, not wanting to make a scene just yet. Then came the moment that would define the entire experience. The mom turned to me and said, in a not-so-polite tone, "Hey, my daughter really wants to sit by the window. It's her first flight, and she's been looking forward to it. Could you switch seats with me?" My heart sank. It wasn't that I didn't feel bad for the kid. It was just that I had paid extra for that seat. I wasn't about to give it up just because she asked. I didn't want to be rude, so I simply said, "I'm sorry, but I prefer the window seat. It's been a long trip for me, and I'd really like to sit here." But the situation didn't end there. She started getting loud. "You're being really selfish," she said, raising her voice so the entire row could hear. "It's her birthday, and you're being so inconsiderate. She's just a kid." She turned to her daughter and began talking about me so I could hear, saying, "Some people are just so rude. All she had to do was be kind and let you have the window, but no." The kid, now crying, started to demand the seat as well, shouting, "I want the window." Honestly, I didn't know whether to feel bad or to be annoyed at this point. The whole thing felt like an overreaction, and I couldn't help but feel like I was being put on the spot for something that didn't even feel like my responsibility. Then came the worst part, the guilt tripping. The mom began speaking louder, saying, "People like you who think the world revolves around them. You're just ruining her birthday." She kept going, and it wasn't just subtle guilt tripping. No, it was straight up rude, directed right at me. Everyone on the plane could hear her loud and clear. I felt the heat rising in my chest. I didn't want to get into a confrontation, but I had to stand my ground. I had paid for this seat. The ticket was already overpriced, and now she was trying to take it away just because she didn't like my answer? Not happening. I decided to ignore her and continued to stare out of the window. But the situation didn't die down. In fact, it only grew louder. The kids started throwing a tantrum, kicking the seat and crying, demanding I move. And the mom kept repeating how selfish I was for not giving up the seat. At this point, I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. The rest of the passengers around me kept giving me the look, like I was some kind of monster. It felt like they were silently judging me for not giving in, and the pressure was starting to get to me. I began questioning myself. Was I being selfish? Was I really the villain here? The stewardess came over to us, and I thought for sure she'd back me up. But no, she gave me the same look the other passengers had been giving me. She asked, "Ma'am, are you sure you wouldn't like to switch seats with the little girl? It's her first flight, after all." Her tone was neutral, but I could tell she was leaning toward the mom's side. I firmly said, "No, I'd prefer to keep my seat. I paid extra for it, and it's really important to me." She gave me a small nod, but there was a clear sense of discomfort in her eyes, like she expected me to give in. Why should I have to give up my seat? I thought to myself. The mom could have paid for a better seat if it was that important to her daughter. Why was it my responsibility to make her day better? The rest of the flight was a blur of whispers and side glances from other passengers. The crying continued, though the little girl eventually calmed down. The mom kept glancing at me, muttering under her breath. I felt so uncomfortable in that situation, but I refused to budge. When the flight finally landed, I had never been so relieved to be off a plane. But as I walked out, I couldn't help but think, am I the bad person here? I mean, I get that it's her daughter's first flight, and I can understand wanting to make it special, but it wasn't my fault they didn't plan better. I didn't owe them my seat. I paid for it, and I just wanted a peaceful flight. So, am I the bleep bleep for not giving up my window seat to a mom and her daughter, especially when they made a huge scene about it? Well, seekers, what do you think? Have you ever met such entitled people before? What would you do in such a situation? Don't forget to subscribe for more daily stories like this.